Good evening and welcome to Movers and Makers Virtual Chat Series, episode number 7, brought to you by Low Key Arts here in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, and made possible with the generous support of the Gail Pratt Fraser Trust, to whom we are very grateful. I am your host, Sonny Kay, Executive Director of Low Key Arts. It gives me great pleasure to welcome tonight's guest to the show, someone I've considered a friend for a long time and a bona fide hustler for the cause of rock and roll, if ever there was one. What he lacks as a maker, he makes up for tenfold as a mover.
Oh,
like that?
I like it.
Tonight's episode has had the odds stacked against it for quite a few weeks, but we've persevered, and I'm very glad to be here and thrilled to welcome the one and only Lalo Medina to the show. Lalo?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The applause is overwhelming right now, Sonny.
So good to see you, man.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Sonny. It's been too long.
It has been too long. Life is treating you all right in California?
Yes, it's wonderful here, Sonny. It's wonderful. That's why so many people live here. Beautiful
happy.
Day today. I look, yeah. I mean,
happy and healthy.
Thankfully, I've spent the last year, just chilling.
Well, good.
Trying to just, not let things get me down.
Well, the chaos involved with getting us on the horn together, so to speak, this evening, almost seems kind of apropos.
Yes.
Your career and your role as a crisis manager, I think, more often than not, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Crisis management is definitely in the job description. Yeah. As is moving, as you mentioned.
Sure.
Active mover, always moving around. I move people. Freight gets moved too. Mm-hmm. I don't really move it myself though, but people I move.
But you are spinning a lot of plates at any given time.
I will also chip in with a friend, like if a friend needs to move, change house, but I'm not going to do heavy lifting. I'm just going to do give me like the box of china or something.
I would have been nice to know that when I was moving around.
No one ever asks. No one. That people feel like, oh, I don't want to burden him. He's probably busy. Well, that's the thing. I mean, for literally a year, I've not been busy. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll
anyway, if you need to move, let me know.
Well, thank you. I'm going to keep that in mind. I would like to cover, a range of topics with you this evening, if you don't mind.
Oh, can't wait.
We talk about people's careers here and what motivates them to follow the paths that they're on. And, I know that your path has diverged more than once. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to kind of start at the beginning without getting too, out in the weeds and in the minutia. But,
you want the quick overview?
Yeah. I know you grew up in LA, is that right?
Born and raised in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And went to, after college, I decided after sort of kicking around for a year, doing nothing, I decided to teach because that's what you do with an ethnic studies degree from UC Riverside. You just teach. So I taught high school English for 2.5 years, but sort of in the summers and at night. And I was involved in this Chicano art scene in LA. Centered around Highland Park. And, I met a bunch of great people, including what would be the first band I tour managed, and that was a band called Ozomatli.
Okay.
And that was, I met them in the summer of 95. They had just started. And, and sort of as I was teaching, I was also just involved and always doing stuff. And then eventually they became pretty popular and got signed to a label and needed a tour manager. And I think they figured if I could take care of a bunch of high school students, I could take care of them. So I quit teaching thinking I'll go do this for a year or two, go see the world for free. That was the enticement. I mean, I was young and, no commitments and no mortgage. So I went for it thinking I would just be gone for a couple of years and back to teaching. But that was a long time ago. That was 97. So help me count here, Sonny. That's over 20 years, right? 24 years ago. Yeah. Maybe I'll have a big 25th anniversary party, tour managing. I'll tour manage it though, of course. I'll
incredible idea. I'd like to.
I'll send out a day sheet. You know what? It's a good idea. All right.
It is a great idea. It's a great idea.
All right. Everyone I've ever tour managed is invited. and their pluses, of course.
Wow. Okay. Still on good terms with everybody then. That's great.
I've definitely tour managed you, Sonny. You've been on a tour bus with me. For sure.
Have.
I've definitely told you about lobby calls and bus calls.
Yes, you have.
I've seen you thrown out of restaurants, Sonny.
You've been responsible for me getting thrown out of a restaurant. I'd like to point out.
Okay. All right. I didn't know we were going to go there, Sonny. Okay. That's cool.
What were you into as a teenager, Lalo? I mean, you got into this art scene in LA. What you weren't? Were you going to see bands? Were you going to see live music or anything?
No. Music was never really my big thing. I was always just the kid that wanted to do stuff and wanted to get involved, wanted to help.
Okay.
I was kind of like the teacher's pet. I've always been that kid though. I've always been like, I just want to help. Let's do stuff. And I was the second grade. What's that?
Are you an only child?
I'm the youngest of 4, and I have a shit ton of cousins. I have like 60 first cousins, and it goes on and on. I mean, it's just a humongous Mexican family. Okay. So that's part of it too, maybe. I mean, my mom definitely looked after a bunch of people. So, but I was always like that. I was the second grade line leader. I was the kid that was like, all right, Bobby, over here, Janet, perfect. I was that kid. Yes. So it was just that. Yeah, that's sort of where I got my in. I had no clue growing up that I would be involved in music or in the entertainment industry at all. One thing that has been consistent with me is I've always loved the arts. And in fact, the very first the event where I met Ozomatli was a fundraiser that I was doing for these incredible Chicano satirists that had a really funny magazine back in the day called Pocho Magazine, which is a Chicano satire magazine.
Okay.
It's zine, not magazine.
Right.
Chicano satire zine, and it was hysterical. And they were raising money for a movie that they wanted to make called The Mexicutioner, and it was going to be a Mexican wrestling satire.
Wow.
Which I'm sure would have been hilarious, but. Yeah. So that was I was actually helping them, or I was sort of the one organizing the fundraiser for that movie, and that's where I met Ozomatli because they wanted to get on the bill of that show. So that's sort of it sort of happened by accident, but really it was all divergent on from my love of art and being an artist. I've always loved it.
Is that where your buddy Zool comes from, who I've met many times?
Yeah. Zool was one of the writers, editors, and the other one was another Lalo named Lalo Alcaraz, who's a really incredible cartoonist, political cartoonist.
Oh wow! Oh yeah,
you should check his stuff out.
That name, yeah.
Lalo Alcaraz, yeah.
Crazy.
He also has a funny his Instagram thing is really quite hysterical too. Lalo Alcaraz. I don't know how the hashtaggery works, or what his handle is, but I'm sure someone can figure it out. Anyway, highly recommend. Really wonderful cartoonist. But yeah. So I sort of backdoored myself into the whole thing, and I think if I was a humongous or big music fan, I might be. It might make it more difficult, actually. I might be more like,
starstruck,
I guess, Now it's just like, oh.
That begs a question that I was planning on asking you about later on, but I'll throw it out there to you now. It's maybe this is, I guess this might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but I often wonder for people doing your job, but especially you, because you seem to enjoy your job so much. I've known a lot of tour managers, and I don't think I've ever known one who embraces the job and seems to love it and have a kind of, zeitgeist of your own, sort of like, you know what I mean? Like
Thank you, Sonny.
You are a tour manager's manager. I think even Polestar magazine has gone so far as
there's no accounting for taste, Sonny, as you know. But there is one thing for sure that is true, is that I love my job. And, I didn't always love it. I think when I first started, after a couple of years, I had this sort of existential crisis because, it's a service job.
Sure.
A tour manager, you're the last person you think about is yourself.
Yeah.
You're steering a ship, and usually that ship includes 40, 50 people in our case now. So, although I would say I do it soberly mostly. I do it soberly, but emotionally, you know, I have to put everyone else ahead of who you are. And it can be a bit draining. And at least it was initially a long time ago, you know, where I felt like, oh man, I'm doing all this for others, but what am I doing for myself? And it really changed around for me when I realized, actually, I'm good at this stuff, or at least I feel like I'm good at it because I really enjoy it, and people trust me to get them where they got to be. And and we have a good time doing it. So yeah, man, I mean, I just sort of, once I started just embrace the fact that I actually really love the job, and I love the travel, and I love just being around all these amazing people as we explore the world and see. I mean, it really.
How much harder would it be if you didn't respect the artist that you were working for?
I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I definitely, you know, I've definitely been lucky.
I think that's the problem with some of the people I've known who've seemed to hate the job, is that they're almost like been at it so long.
Yeah.
Every year it's a different horse, so to speak. There's not really a personal investment in the groups necessarily. And I think people tend to kind of get just, you know, burnt out or whatever.
Yeah. I've been really, really lucky in my career. I haven't worked with a lot of bands, but the bands that I have worked with, I've stuck with them for, you know, at least a couple of years each. And then 14 years ago is when I met Jack, and I've been really, really lucky because he's like, he and I just hit it off really well. And I super love doing the job, and we're still really into it. He hasn't fired me yet. Could happen any minute, but you know, until that happens, I'm going to keep enjoying it. And, you know,
so at the time that you started working for Jack, you became affiliated with Monotone Incorporated in LA, right? Ian Monotone.
Yeah, I met Ian. I actually had met Ian when I was working with Sparta, which led to where I met you, Mars Volta. No, I met you with Sparta, actually.
Did you?
I met you early on with Sparta because there must have been, well, obviously there was the Mars Volta connection, but either way, I met Ian, Jack's manager, in that sort of time. And then, you know, I met the White Stripes sort of unrelated to that when I was tour managing Jurassic 5. I met them in Australia because we shared. Oh, this is a good story. We had in Australia, they have festivals where, you know, at least they used to, the international acts, they sort of group them all together, especially the non-headliners. Like the headliners, you get your own shit and you, like, you know, you move separately.
You're talking about Big Day Out or other things?
It wasn't Big Day Out, and I forget the name, but I bet somebody could find it. But on the bill, and this is how it, for sure, and this is how I know because we were all grouped together. They group you together by hotel and flights and air, like and ground transportation. So we'd take the same flights, we stay at the same hotels, and we would ride the same bus from the airport to the hotel. And that's where I met again now the White Stripes crew, their tour manager, the production manager, still very close friends of mine. But anyway, the sharing all those things on that tour with Jurassic 5, the Roots, and the White Stripes. It was like such a weird mishmash of bands. But I was there with, you know, arguably one of the lowest one on the bill. We were the lowest ones on the bill, but still, like, I managed to, you know, make connections with all the other bands that I still have to this day, with all of those bands, obviously with Jack. And then I met him again 2 years later when I was with Mars Volta, or 2 or 3 years later.
Okay.
And then, you know, after that, I started working I went from Mars Volta to Jack, to the White Stripes.
Just to clarify, your resume is Ozomatli, is Jurassic 5?
Well, Sparta. Well, when I was doing Ozo had also two members of Jurassic 5 that were the original members of Ozomatli, so that was sort of a natural transition. But then, right around the same time I started doing Jurassic 5, I also did Dilated Peoples, another Cali hip hop group.
Yeah.
And then I did Black Alicious for a while.
Oh, fantastic!
Wow. Good. And then the only other bands I did My Chemical Romance. I did the last half of the Black Parade tour because it was incredible. Those guys are so sweet and such great guys. Yeah, and it was. I mean, it was actually I'd gone from the White Stripes canceled a bunch of touring, and all of a sudden I had an open schedule and a mouth to feed, mine. So I somehow I got recommended for this gig to finish off the Black Parade tour with My Chemical Romance. So I did 6 months of that and saw all these great places in the world, because they were sort of, it was the second half of their touring. So they had already done the US and they had already done one round of Europe. So I think we started in Mexico, but then we also did all the fun stuff: Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, South America. So that was a ton of fun and really great guys. Oh, and then I also did Bad Religion for like, I was sort of like the substitute. I did a Mexico, South America tour with them because I speak Spanish. Okay. That was a lot of fun. Those guys are, I mean, they'd just been doing it. Even at that point, they had been doing it for so long that they were just like, they had their own operation, and I just had to come in and take care of the tour, the other tour managing stuff. So it was sort of less hands-on because they were all adults. I didn't have to take care of them or anything.
Was there anyone in the band that you really connected with?
I mean, they were all great guys, but Jay was sort of my main contact, because he was sort of like the operations guy in that unit. But they were all lovely people. I mean, really a lot of fun, and I sort of got a chance to see how these bigger bands operate, and especially with My Chem and then how we did things with the White Stripes. I was able to compare and learn from and grow from that experience. And yeah, it's been. But then of course, but then since then, I've been just Jack now for 14 years, and then I think I started with Monotone 13 years ago. I think it was a year after. Yeah, but it was about a year after I started with Jack that Ian hired me to basically help oversee the touring for his other clients, and
and that's where obviously the Kills,
the Kills, the Shins, Vampire Weekend are all and Foster the People are all bands that I put the tours together, but I didn't, or I helped to put it together, but I didn't tour it. Okay. So the routing and the budgeting and the crew hiring and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's been also a wonderful experience with Monotone, because Ian is a great boss. I'm super lucky to have two great bosses. So but yeah, I'm doing less of that now though with the office stuff, but I'm still very much involved with anything Jack related. Now it's just I'm taking a grandfatherly role now in the office,
Sure. So, I mean, COVID notwithstanding, it seems to me that Jack's touring schedule has slowed down a little bit the last few years. I mean, he has a family and everything, and these projects kind of seem to cycle through the spotlight, so to speak. But I think overall, there's I get the impression that he's on the road much less than he was certainly during the White Stripes days, and maybe I'm wrong. But
I think you're right. Before me, because I went in 10-year anniversary. I was there the 10 year. So for the 10 years leading up to me, I think they went hard. But then he had has a family, has two kids, and definitely while they've been growing up, it's been busy. And then he took a 3-year break from touring, and then since that 3-year break, he's been back more consistently. So he did a Jack White solo tour, and then we went almost literally straight into a year of touring with the Raconteurs.
Okay.
So, and then that led up to COVID year, and we were already going to take a year off, but now I think definitely we're both itching to get back when we can. So. I think now that his kids are older and they're in high school now, which is crazy. Now that they're older, I think he's it's going to be like, I don't think he's ever going to be a type of guy that's just going to go out all year, because I don't think that doesn't interest him or me. But really, it's his band, so he does what he wants. But it's just. But yeah, I think it's going to be more common, I guess, less breaks, but still going to be, everyone needs to recharge a battery and make a record and do stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. You've mentioned before that you are surprised to find yourself recognized by their fans and
Oh,
you know, to me, I guess I personally find that surprising in a sense because like this is something that is adored by arguably tens of millions of people around the world, and you're an integral part of that equation.
wow, that's very nice, Sonny. I mean, I'm surprised only because I have nothing creatively to add to any of it, so I'm not responsible for any of it except getting him where he has to be, you know. And I guess that's a big job, but I mean, not really. That's why I love it. It's just it.
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think also you know, having been there as long as you have, certainly you have the vote of confidence of this person who's greatly admired.
Yes, and it's very nice. And I think, you know, his fans are also really great. They're really wonderful people. They're very, in general, very polite and very, you know, considerate of each other, which is amazing. And I think, honestly, you know, yeah, if I'm walking around and near the fans, a few of them, especially the ones that get there early, might know my name, and it still freaks me out. But I think, you know, they're just like, and I get it. I mean, they love, if, you know, for the artists that people love, you just want to, you know,
sure, you want to know every detail.
You want to know every detail. So I'm part of that detail, I guess. And but I mean, I don't mind it. It's just a little like, you know, whoa, like, you know, like that caught me by surprise.
To take ownership over it because it's,
it's certainly not about me. I mean, it could have been anybody that's in my role that's, you know, happens to be next to him when he's getting photographed, telling, you know, or trying to move him inside or outside, you know, in and out of buildings and stuff. I'm sort of the residual, the guy in the background.
What's the most misunderstood aspect of what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. A misunderstood aspect of what I do. I guess I would say
below, right?
Well, you know, I was going to say, I guess that's the number one thing, right? Is everyone assumes that it's a big party. Right. And I was going to say it isn't, but it actually is. It's a great time. And we do have a good time. I guess the big part of it is that I can't be more, can I swear on this broadcast, sir? Or are you following FCC rules here?
No.
But I can't be the one getting fucked up.
Right.
I get one step away from being fucked up.
Sure.
But I still got to be the one that keeps one eye open.
Great degree of discipline that's required with your job that you seem to have very little difficulty slipping in and out of.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, part of the job definitely is hosting people and kind of hosting a party. I mean, backstage, you know, there's not one show where somebody doesn't have a family member or a friend or a guest that comes, you know, and it's their big night out. And at least on our camp and our tour, you know, we like to extend hospitality to people's friends or mothers or family or whatever, because it's a big deal. You know, they're really proud of, no matter who in our operation is involved, if it's the guitar tech or if it's the guy playing keyboards or if it's Jack's family, everyone is there and is sort of, you know, like really proud of their kid for doing it, you know, because it's, you know, they've achieved a certain level of success and all the fans there, and there's a really, you know, a party energy. Everyone's drinking and it's a good time. So that is part of the job, is to be a party host. You know, I know not all tour managers would agree with that, and you know, not all tour managers do it, and that's totally fine. But that's not me. I love getting involved in those details because those details are the ones that are important to not just Jack, but the whole tour that we operate with. You know, everyone wants to be treated well, and when you treat someone's guests well or someone's mom and dad well, I mean, all of that trickles down and just it makes for a really positive and loving and you know, energetic, you know, experience for everybody. It's a lot of fun. I didn't really answer your question, I think, but but who cares? We're having a good time, Sonny.
Thanks to you and our mutual friend Tiffany, who's a colleague of yours at Monotone.
Yes,
I have had the good fortune of seen Jack a number of times in his various projects, and
pretty good. He's pretty good.
Fortunate enough to kind of linger around, and never ever, especially in Los Angeles, never fails to surprise me. The people who come out of the woodwork to celebrate these bands and to meet Jack, or rub elbows and whatnot. I personally have been in a couple of really surreal situations, and
really,
I wonder who might, in your assessment, might be the most surprising Jack White or White Stripes fan or fans.
Oh, I signed very, very strict NDAs.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Right. Oh my God. Okay. Kidding me? Every celebrity that comes through makes me sign an NDA. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm just kidding. I don't know if any are surprising, but yeah, certainly there's a lot of, look, the guy is very well respected for a reason. Yeah. He's a pretty amazing musician. So seeing, I guess, other musicians come to shows is always great, like, yeah.
The thing that the particular breed of kind of surrealism I'm talking about isn't musicians; it's actually actors.
Oh yes, there have been a few actors. John C. Reilly is a great friend, for example. Have you met him? Is that what you're referring to? You've been, and Conan?
Not Conan, no.
All right,
Conan and thing is a wild thing to experience sometimes.
Well, he and Jack did that Walk Hard movie together. Remember, Jack played Elvis in that movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
By the way, totally worthy of a rewatch. That movie, so funny.
Well, all right, maybe I'll Netflix that tonight.
What, you haven't seen it? Walk Hard?
I think I saw it
when it came out.
Yeah.
I saw it recently again last year, and pandemic scrolling, we ran out of things to do, but I gotta say, it holds up. Pretty hilarious. And I say that with no bias, because Jack's role was minor, but it was just a really funny movie. But yeah, no, he's been really, really great, and he's also a musician, by the way.
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly is also a musician. Yeah, he does like sort of Americana-ish stuff. Plays a mean guitar, and has a good band that plays around sometimes. Really, really good stuff. But yeah,
wow,
yeah, very surprising. Also, pretty funny guy. I don't know if you know that.
Undoubtedly,
pretty funny.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Day we'll talk about it. There's been some funny stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about this. Since we're talking about Jack and we're talking about scandalous things in your life, I wonder if you would like to talk at all about something that erroneously appeared in the press about 6 years ago. A minor scandal to do with Jack White's Guacamole.
Oh my God. And, I think actually I'm not allowed to talk about this.
Okay,
no,
well,
I'm just kidding.
It
was silly. It was really silly.
Well, the thing is that those of us in the know full well that it's not Jack White's guacamole. This is
it's my recipe. Yes.
Of course it's yours.
That's what I'm pissed most off about.
Yeah, and what would you like to let's set the record? Let's set the record straight for this.
Yeah, well, my guacamole recipe went viral, so it was my recipe. It got misappropriated to Jack's name, but let me defend this. It's actually started with the White Stripes, because they had Guacamole on their writer, and when I started, I was like, if you just put guacamole, they're going to give you whatever prepackaged crap is at Vaughn's or whatever when they're shopping for it.
Lemon pulp.
This is so you've heard the famous story of Van Halen doing like the colored M&Ms and
red M&Ms,
and you know what that's about. It's
just making the promoter pay attention.
Correct. It's about making sure that it's who cares if you have green M&Ms. It's just about, let's just make sure you read this thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a litmus test so the guacamole recipe that's actually was on our writer, and everyone loves guacamole, and especially for the after party. So it was sort of like a test, and it was kind of tongue in cheek, but I said, here's my mom's guacamole recipe, and this is how, I was like, I was very particular and you can Google, and I can't, you know what? Don't Google it, please.
I did Google it, and because I wanted to refresh my memory. And
it was a little chunky. It's a chunky guacamole recipe. Actually, somebody made it and said we tried Jack White's guacamole recipe, and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, you know who did it is some 5-star like Michelin chef or something in London, because he's quoted in an article that I read, and yeah, the whole thing has totally jumped the tank. It's amazing.
Right. Yes. But, okay.
There was a footnote on the article too that said last time we made when we first published this story, we mistakenly said that the rider had leaked, but in fact it was shared. So
no,
I want to clarify that
I will answer this.
Nothing nefarious about it.
Question. It was. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything that's not already public knowledge. But the student, I think it was University of Oklahoma that leaked it, because there was a journalist on their newspaper staff that that thought it was a part of public record that everyone should know how much Jack gets paid and look at his ridiculous rider, because you sign a contract to play this university, and you're basically, it's a public contract because it's a public university. So yeah, they do. People are entitled to know what they spend on entertainment, and that's fine. I mean, I don't think anyone's arguing that. It's just that obviously it's not intended to be for public consumption. It's a private communication between ourselves and the local promoter, because no surprise, you want things done properly, and that's the least important of it. The most important part of the rider is all the safety stuff that is extremely important, and that's why the guacamole thing is ridiculous that it became an issue that people talk about, or that the student newspaper thought was so important for public information and the public trust that this gets exposed.
Sure. The irony of like it's no different than any other band writer. In fact, it's probably a lot more modest. I mean, I've seen some pretty crazy ones and over the years, and certainly 9 out of 10 so-called punk bands have a rider.
Yeah, so, it was silly. It was silly. I did actually make. I walked on stage that show and had a big bowl of guacamole that I took a big bite out of.
It's amazing.
In front of the crowd. It was pretty good.
Jack could start his own guacamole line, probably. Or
oh God, please no. It's annoying that that's people. You can't control the narrative, but it's just silly that all these years later, and my guacamole recipe is still famous. But still, that's ridiculous. Come on.
Well, I'm sorry for rubbing salt in the wound.
Rubbing salt in the guacamole, you mean?
Onion salt, I should add. Speaking of Mexican food, Lalo, I have an important question to ask you, and that is, where in the world that you've been would you say has the worst Mexican food?
Oh. Wow, Sonny. This is a really difficult question to ask.
I know it is. I'm throwing you a curveball.
Especially because what my answer is so unfair, because it's one of my favorite countries in the world, and that's Japan.
Yeah.
I did a homestay. They call it a homestay. It's a youth exchange, basically. Right after high school, I got sent to Japan to stay with a family for 6 weeks.
Oh, how amazing! I didn't know.
It was an incredible experience. The first time out of the country, aside from Mexico, where my parents are from, and it was this trip to Japan I took when I was 18. 6 weeks with one family.
Incredible.
And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I had told the family that. I think they asked me what I miss most, and I said Mexican food. So as a surprise, a few days later, the dad was like, he put me in the car, and he drove me, and we drove like an hour. We drove like an hour in the countryside, so like the closest Mexican food to where the family lived, and it was wow. It was just about inedible.
Wow.
But it was so sweet of him, so I didn't say anything. And of course you can't say anything, but I was just like, I miss home.
Yeah.
But what about, is there a follow-up question? What's the surprise? Where I've had amazing Mexican food that was surprising?
Yeah. That outside.
Was that a follow-up?
Yeah, outside of the obvious places, where
Outside of
where
the
would you go?
obvious.
Yeah.
Well, I've had really great Mexican food in Copenhagen.
Wow,
There's
really?
a taco. There's a really great taco place there. I forget the name, but you Google best Mexican food Copenhagen. There's only one. It's like Taco Shack, and it's proper. Like they have al pastor with the pineapple and the whole thing. They make their
Wow.
own tortillas because you kind of have to.
Is it a Mexican guy running it?
There was a Mexican woman, and yeah, really
Amazing.
solid, really
Okay.
solid. And then we had good Mexican food in Edinburgh twice, same place, but also Mexican couple that moved to Europe, and they were like, yeah, we have to import a lot because we went on a day off. We just found it near the hotel. We were all craving Mexican food. I was like, it's just pretty legit.
Wow.
Turns out Mexican guy in the kitchen comes
Amazing.
out, and I think we had a beer.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's very, very surprising. I would never in a million years would I have guessed Scotland.
We were pleasantly surprised.
Japan doesn't surprise me at all. I think I experienced a rough taco with you there myself one time.
Yeah.
And I've also been very surprised by by the low quality of the Mexican food in Spain. I don't know if you've experienced that, but
that's not surprising either.
Yeah.
That's not surprising. I think there's no good Spanish food in Mexico, probably. Or maybe there is. I don't know.
I don't know. I had Japanese food in Oaxaca.
Oh, I've had great Japanese food in Mexico City.
Oh, you didn't have it in Oaxaca, I can tell you that.
No, I didn't. Wait, Oaxaca?
Yeah.
That's an old joke. Sorry.
I had sorry, I missed that. I ordered a salmon roll, and it was lox. It was in a deli, not in a sushi shop.
I mean, you should have specified, dude. It's your fault.
What, Lalo, if you don't mind me changing the subject,
yes.
What would be your advice to anybody who, looking at your career and thinking it's incredibly attractive and star-studded and certainly glamorous? What would your advice be to anybody considering this as an option?
It's a good question. I guess just that's it. I don't really know how to answer that because it sort of happened accidentally with me. But then I think, well, it wasn't that accidental because I was getting involved in shit. Like and I honestly, if you really love music and you want to get involved, I bet if you start hanging around your favorite club and just don't go away and meet all the fucking guys that are loading in gear, you're gonna meet dudes, and if you're cool and they hire you locally to work at their club, even just to unload vans and shit, you got to start somewhere. But that's how you meet people. And then if you meet a band you like and you're cool and they need a guy, if you literally just you just get out there and work hard, I think people notice, and if you go above and beyond, you don't wait to be asked for shit, or you don't wait for job openings to crop up. But also, I mean, I wouldn't have met those guys if I wasn't involved in this scene either, where if you want to work with artists, you got to hang out with them. Yeah. They got to know you and trust you and like having you around. All those things are not going to happen on their own. So you got to go find them. So.
Yeah. And I think, I just completely lost my train of thought.
You should lay off the marijuana there, Sonny. It's short-term memory.
I think that, I think that the career itself lends itself to people who are, taking the initiative, being involved, being in the right place.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's probably true for any industry and any career. But
yeah,
I personally feel like arguably music more than any other is all about who you know.
For sure. It is all about who you know. in some ways, but then I also think it's about, how much effort you're willing to put into knowing those people.
Mm-hmm.
I swear, if you wanted to, if you bug the shit out of your local favorite club in whatever small town you live in or whatever big town you live in, and just, hit them up for a job whenever you can, and just be around and say volunteer, when I was doing that first gig for that zine, that benefit show, I wasn't getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't care,
Yeah.
if you're, and that's, I think, true of a lot of people that sort of stumbled into it. They just, I guess, at the right place at the right time, but they put themselves there. So,
yeah. It's basically this is the same kind of advice that I give young people starting out making art, wanting to make art for music. The best advice I could give them is to just find a band you love and start creating stuff for them and give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you did, and you formed a label and did album art. I mean, all this stuff that you do.
Mm-hmm.
No one said, "Here, Sonny, do you want to do this Movers and Makers, podcast or whatever?" I mean, it's just what you do. If that's what you want to do it.
Yeah, waiting for the green light from anybody or an invitation is means you can be waiting a long time.
Yeah, exactly. But if you put yourself in situations where people that make those decisions will notice you, then you have a higher chance of getting what you want, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But who knows?
When you look
Don't
back,
follow advice from me, whatever you do.
We might have to set you up with a career counseling course here.
Oh boy, let's pray Jack doesn't fire me, because I have no other skills.
I wouldn't say that. You make an excellent champurrado, right? How do you like my pronunciation on that?
That's pretty good. Good.
I wouldn't even know what that was if it wasn't for you.
Thank you. Full disclosure, Sonny, we buy that champurrado.
Oh man!
I'm sorry, Sonny. I'm sorry. Those weren't my tamales either. We bought those too.
Oh, yeah.
Sonny, I burst the bubble.
Yeah, you did.
Listen, I don't want the memory of the champurrado to be diminished, though, because it was delicious. It was delicious. It's just, you had it at my house. How about that? Yeah. You think of me, you think warm, delicious champurrado.
I'll never hear the word again without thinking of you. I promise you that. Awesome. Lalo, when you look back at your career, the last 24 years, coming up on a quarter of a century, I know you've already really, we've talked about a lot of the real, your main, I don't know if clients is the right word, but the artists that you've repped and worked with, and that. When you look back, what would you consider the real milestones of things that you've been able to do? I mean, was going to Brazil or Australia something that you had wanted to do your whole life, for example?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, yes, for sure, seeing the world has been incredible. I mean, but really just being around to see these incredible moments artistically, creatively, that Jack, well, not just Jack, but all the artists that I work with, thankfully, just incredible artistry. So, and seeing them perform in front of audiences, and the audiences get really really, really engaged and connected to it. That's all been extremely special. But then there's super rare moments that that you're never. And the one that comes to top of mind almost always is, speaking of South America, is Jack was headlining Lollapalooza, South America, in Santiago, Chile. And Robert Plant, he of Led Zeppelin fame, was also on the bill. And he was watching, he had played earlier in the day, and he was watching Jack side of stage, right behind the monitor guy. And he was there for most of the show. And, Jack, I don't know if you know this, but Jack never has a set list. So he just never has a set list, which is really another, really fun thing to watch, him just sort of communicate with the band, and everyone has to stay on their toes. So he walks off stage for a breather, and I guess it's an encore break or whatever, but it's, to towel off, get a water. And then usually what happens is they walk off stage, everyone's taking a breather and relaxing. And then after a minute or two, Jack will send the band out and say either what key to start in or what song to play. But it's always, just impromptu. So he sends them out and start in a certain key. I don't remember which key it is because I don't know anything about music. But, the band goes out and they start jamming. And Jack is supposed to go walk right, give it a beat and then walk on stage, and the crowd goes crazy and they start the show. And instead of doing that, the band walks, to start playing. And instead of going to the stage, he sort of goes in on the side bit, in the side world where the audience can't see, but there's other bands are watching or guests are watching. And he walks all the way around, and I'm following him like, where's this guy going? And he goes all the way behind the monitor board to where Robert Plant was sitting, and he's like, whispers in his ear, and Robert's like, and he's like, yeah. Oh, and a quick agreement was made. I mean, the exchange lasted 3 seconds, and he walks on stage, and then he tells the bass player what's happening. And the bass player, who Jack has been playing with since I think he was like 13 or something. They just grew up playing together. Counts off for the drummer, who had never, and again, none of the band know this is happening. Robert didn't know it was happening. Jack, I think, had just decided, but the bass player counts it off for the drummer, the Lemon Song, which Robert Plant hadn't performed. Well, of course, the band had never performed it, but Robert hadn't sung it I think at that point I think he said like 30 years he hadn't done it. And this is in front of 80,000 people.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
And they nail it. And I still get goosebumps thinking about it, because it's like, oh my God. And no one knows, because it looks so good and it was so organic, and it was just such a special moment that it looked like they could have rehearsed it for 2 weeks.
That's just
but
amazing.
No, it was like super impromptu and just, yeah.
Wow.
You could speaking of Google, I've been advertising Google a lot here. Huh?
You sure have, yeah.
I hope so. I really hope so. But
actually, speaking
you
of
can Google, you can find it.
I've looked.
Yeah.
That's not Robert Plant, of course. That's Elvis
Costello. Elvis Costello, yeah.
Can you explain what's going on in this photo?
I think that was Town Hall in New York. We were there. It was something to do with T-Bone. T-Bone put together a show of some sort, maybe. Okay. And it was at Town Hall, and yeah. And obviously Elvis played. It was one of those, like, a lot of really cool acts played, but I don't remember who it was exactly. But that photo was in the old Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Matter of fact,
there's
a lot of hats.
Remarkably little to be found Googling your name.
Good. We like to keep it that way, Sonny.
Yeah. Have quite a healthy amount of articles or that kind of thing, or just mentions, but not much.
The guacamole recipe is
guacamole thing is definitely it's going to be your legacy, I think.
Guacamole gate. That's fine. That's totally fine. I hope they serve it at my funeral, Sonny. By the way, you're invited to my funeral. It's going to be a hell of a party.
Finally,
it's going to be a hell of a party.
Your wedding, but I'm going to come to your funeral.
Yeah,
so take it.
Just do me a favor and party, all right? Just have a good time.
I'm going to do that.
Plenty of tequila and guacamole.
So listen, I've got one more thing I want to mention to you.
Yes.
Unless, of course, you have anything else you'd like to talk about. But
Bobby Missile, by the way, says there's great Chinese food in Mexicali.
That's right. He does. What do you have to say about that?
Amazing. I love Mexicali. I had a tia that lived in Mexicali when I was growing up. It's one of the hottest places on earth. It is very, very boiling hot. Yeah. So, but I love to hear that Chinese food is good. Chinese food is served in Mexicali. So thank you, Bobby. Anyway,
I think I actually had a while. Yeah, never mind. That's a whole other story. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to mention to you, I've been harping on you about Hot Springs ever since I moved here a few years ago, and it's common knowledge that you and Jack are both very serious baseball aficionados.
I knew you were going to say baseball.
And
you love baseball.
I feel like it's my duty as a citizen here to inform you, whether to bring it to your attention if you don't already know that Hot Springs is the birthplace of spring training. Did you know that?
Hot Spring Training?
Hot Springs, Arkansas National Park. Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas is the birthplace of Major League Baseball spring training.
Is that where it gets its name? Or is it named after the season?
As in hot spring training?
That's what I said. Hot spring training.
Sorry, I'm slow on the take tonight. No, I think it was a short-lived thing.
It's the season.
Yeah, but okay, so it was this. Yeah, Yes. The spring training happens to take place in the spring, but
I had no idea that fun fact.
And
about that fun fact, but thank you, Sonny.
You would I think be really impressed with the amount of attention paid here to the history of baseball, and
that
I encourage you to make the leap of faith and come here sometime and check it out.
I would love to, Sonny. What's the closest major city to Hot Springs?
Little
Where
Rock.
would I go? What's that?
Little Rock.
Little Rock.
Yeah.
Shit, Sonny. Oh, there I am cursing again. There goes your FCC license, Sonny. You know what, Sonny? I feel really terrible saying this, but I realized that I actually drove through Little Rock in December. I might have even driven through Hot Springs. Are you on the way to Dallas or on the way to Nashville?
We're on the way to Dallas. Yeah.
Fuck, dude. I drove by Hot Springs. I could have totally pulled over, knocked on your door, asked for a sandwich.
It's taken all my self-control not to just pull the plug on this.
This is fucked up that I'm just realizing this.
This is
as soon as this is over, I'm going to actually look exactly how far I was from you. I even stopped at Central High because I was like, I had to stop there for gas and lunch. And I'm like, I'm in Little Rock. How often am I in Little Rock? And I drove to Central High and I took a selfie.
Wow. Well, okay. So
in solidarity.
It's going to seem, okay. You've already,
but I'm
really
really
that
bummed.
trail. How much easier is it going to be for you to just do it again sometime?
I'm really bummed. Yeah, no, that's true. Although now that that there's light at the end of this pandemic tunnel, I did a road trip. I took a road trip to Nashville just by myself. Got in the car, just going for meetings, but I was just got in the car. And Little Rock was on the agenda back.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd have done that. I don't know if I would. What's that?
That's the point I'm trying to make. We are like a half a day drive from Jack's.
Well, and it's a very pleasant drive, by the way.
It sure is.
A very pleasant drive, especially Little Rock to Dallas. It's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah. Well,
pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I feel really bad.
Yeah, well, don't. I mean, you're embarrassing me publicly, but that's quite all right.
Why am I embarrassing you?
Well, I mean, here we are, maintaining the illusion that we're friends, and
we're great friends, Sonny. It's just that Jesus Christ, man, I can't.
Okay, all right.
I thought for some reason Hot Springs, Arkansas was like near Florida or some shit. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I don't. Geography was never one of my strong suits.
There's a Hot Springs, South Dakota. That could be what you're confusing us with.
Could be. There's a Palm Springs. Have you heard of that?
Palm Springs. I've heard.
Yes, there's a Palm Springs. There's a lot of springs.
Sounds great.
Springfield.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's a lot of springs right here in Arkansas, believe it or not. Anyway,
well, that would make sense.
I can't tell you how grateful I am that you spent this hour with me here this afternoon.
Oh, amazing. That was so easy, Sonny.
Well, good. I'm glad. I was hoping
that
it
was
wouldn't
great.
be
Torturous?
Torturous, yeah.
It probably is for people listening.
The numbers seem to be going up, so I think we're doing something right.
Oh, well, Bobby Missile is still talking about Chinese food in Mexico. Oh, no, that's an old thing.
Man, this has been so cool. I've learned a lot about you that I never knew before.
Really?
Yeah, there's quite a few of these things I didn't know.
Okay, awesome. Sonny, I want to interview you next.
Well, okay.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up, Movers and Makers Season 2.
Okay, yeah.
Where your guest from Season 1 interview you.
Whoa.
I love it. Sonny, sign me up.
All right. Lalo, we got to do this more often. And
yes, please.
Hoping that we share a shot of mezcal. And
it's a wonderful idea. It's Sonny. Come to LA, man. Let's get this barbecue going.
I'm going to be there as soon as the restrictions ease up. I'll be landing and giving you my arrival time.
There's a bright light at the end of this tunnel. Sonny, you can also hop in a car. I highly recommend it.
I plan on doing that.
I can tell you what highways to take.
Well, you don't have to do that. I'm an old.
Google. You can Google it.
That's right. Lalo, please extend my love to Rachel.
I will.
All of your feline friends.
Yeah, 2 of them.
And
shout out to Wanda and Linus.
Hell yeah.
They're here somewhere, napping. Good to see your smiling face there, Sonny Kay.
Likewise, man. Next time you're passing through my area code, please don't hesitate.
Now I know. Ooh, look, there's the cat. There's one of the cats. There he goes. Did you see him?
I sure did, yeah.
Okay, good. We ended with a cat shot.
In the show, yeah.
Lalo, look it,
man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Wait. What's this? Hold on. What is
Bobby
it?
Missile says he loved it. Yes.
Oh, good. Right on.
And Adam Guevara.
Yeah. Thanks,
You guys.
Adam.
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
Thanks, guys, for checking it out. Appreciate you guys being here.
All right. Thanks, Sonny.
You bet, Lalo. Take care, man. I'll talk to you
All
soon.
right. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Catch you next time.